And good morning. Welcome back to 1590 KVGB. Steve Webster back with you. We were talking with the sheriff a moment ago, so isn't it fitting that we roll right into focus on Stafford County? I'm just kidding.
Are you implying that we need law enforcement?
No. Just having fun. Carolyn Dunn joining us from Stafford County EcoDevo, Stafford County Economic Development. And she's joined us again, as she does every fourth Thursday of the month. Also in studio with us today, we will be talking with Sarah and Lucas Stoelting about a program that they took advantage of and how things are going. So we will talk with Lucas and Sarah. You guys can say hello if you want to, just so everyone knows that we're just...
Hi.
Okay. See, they are here with us. We have fun on the show, right?
We do.
Okay.
You're always fun to talk with.
Well, it's good to see you, and we've got some good news today that we're going to talk about, and all these initiatives that you've had going on here for the last couple of years and are starting to pay off, and you bring us another example of that today. Tell us what's going on, Carolyn.
Well, it may feel kind of ironic to talk about growing vegetables on a day like today, but...
We know what's to come. That's great. That's great.
That's right. Well, for the past year and a half or so, we've been working with what we call the High Tunnel Project. I guess that may not be a very creative name for it, but it's centered around the idea of high tunnels, which are unheated greenhouses, and expanding some entrepreneurship through a vegetable growing business. So even looking back almost a year and a half ago, there was a grant opportunity through Kansas Department of Agriculture and USDA. It was called the Specialty Crop Block Grant, and it was its purpose was to increase production of specialty crops. It was very broad. I mean, there's a lot of research institutions that apply for those types of fundings, looking for better ways to grow crops. But I looked at that opportunity and said, in Stafford County, we're pretty well positioned to maybe do this type of thing. We're an ag-oriented environment. We know how to grow things. We do have some specialty crop production currently, with our watermelon and cantaloupe and tomatoes and lettuce. But it's mostly the seasonal type of agriculture that's limited to the summer. With the assistance of a grant program such as this, we had an opportunity to try to expand high tunnel production. And again, high tunnels are unheated greenhouses. You might hear them referred to as hoop houses. They extend the growing season in this region to about 10 months a year. But it was a way to kind of build on ag, which we know, and also the entrepreneurship concept that we've talked about on this program a lot before. The idea of building on what we've already got as opposed to more focusing on recruiting something new and different. So our application provided funding for 5 high tunnel structures, technical assistance for growing and management, some market research on what vegetables are being consumed in the area by commercial buyers. So what are the restaurants and the grocery stores and the schools and so forth most buying and willing to buy from local suppliers? And the idea, too, that there's just this class of entrepreneurs that can learn from each other and maybe even over time build cooperative selling structures or whatever. There was some value to that. So we took applications a little over a year ago.
It was November 2012, roughly. So.
Right. And on a competitive basis, 5 families were selected in Stafford County, and Lucas and Sarah were one of those and have done a fantastic job of taking this and just letting it blossom.
Guys, tell me about your business, Victory Gardens.
Well, we had been growing for the last couple of years when we bought property in Stafford County, and we decided to apply for this grant just because, at least for myself, I love to grow, and Lucas has gotten into the joy of gardening and trying out new things. And we really went to applying for the job or the grant just because we had been discussing doing low tunnels. And low tunnel is just a structure that's about 3 foot high and compared to a high tunnel. And we were trying to find a way to extend our season and have fresh lettuce or vegetables started a little bit early in the season, possibly about a month, and then maybe extending it about a month. And so when I saw this go across the board, I thought, well, this is a great opportunity for us, that it's a little bit larger than we had planned or thought about, but thought that it might be a great opportunity to jumpstart our business, basically. And since we had thought about marketing and just hadn't jumped into it, I guess, yet.
So what are a high tunnel? I'm trying to get the vision of this. We got a high tunnel and we got a low tunnel. First of all, give me the cost on one of these.
Cost, you're looking about $4,000 to about $6,500 range, depending on your features. Let me picture it for you. You've got about 2.5 inch or 2.25 inch pipe made in arches, and then you put like a plastic, like this painter plastic that they lay down, and that's what covers it. And that's basically the whole structure. It's got drop down sides and ends to it. It's about 20 foot wide by 70 foot long. Okay, so this is a healthy structure. In the winter, in the summer, we put a shade cloth on top of it, which actually cools it off more than the outside. So you really regulate the sun and the wind, and we've got irrigation there, so the water it creates an ideal place for plants to grow.
Now, how many of these did you end up getting?
We got one high tunnel.
One high tunnel. Okay. What are some of the goodies that you had growing in there?
Well, as soon as we finished at the beginning of May, we already had our tomato plants and pepper plants started, and so we put those in, and we started our cucumbers straight into the tunnel. After that, we went ahead with experimenting with variety of lettuces, spinach, kale, and then we tried doing leeks and celery. And celery has a harder time, I think, struggling. It just doesn't do as well out in the field. It has a more controlled environment. It did much better in the tunnel, and I don't know. We just tried with a variety of vegetables just to see how they'd react within that environment. And then after the main season, we actually tore it all out. And beginning of October, we went and planted a bunch of seeds for lettuce and spinach and kale, carrots and onions to see if we could make our own onion starts instead of going and buying them. And just this last week, I was out there picking a bowl full of salad. And so I have a fresh green salad I could go out and pick, some radishes, and we've got carrots growing right now, and we'll see how far they come along. Sometimes they say you can have them for your first market.
So how do you market your product? I mean, where's because all these people, I don't know, should I tell them where you're at? Because I don't want to go out there. She's eating salad out of her. Where's this place at? We're driving down there right now. I mean,
well, we didn't push the marketing during the fall season. We didn't really know how the growing would actually just play out. So we did it just as an experiment. And then we've given away some, and some people have bought it off of us, but we didn't make that our goal for the fall, to make it more relaxed for us and to catch our breath after the market season. For the main part, once market starts up this spring, we'll start selling back in the farmers markets, and we hope to this year to create a produce box. And a produce box would mean that we would collect a variety of different vegetables that we are producing outside or in the high tunnel, and every 2 weeks or maybe weekly, just depending, for $15 to $20, we would put a box of variety of vegetables that are in season and supply them to, maybe we're hoping for at least 6 families, just to get our feet wet in this. And they'll get them an idea of some maybe vegetables they're not so familiar with. Maybe they'll discover, a turnip is really good, because some people see a turnip and they just don't like the idea. But if you learn how to prepare it, and if we can just put a little note, say, try to prepare it this way, they might discover, I just found a new vegetable that I never tried, and it's excellent just because it's fresh. It tastes different than what you might be able to pick up at Walmart, or different greens or lettuces, and do that throughout the season, but also continue to do the market. And we also would like to continue to sell with Ma's Bar and Grill that's in Seward.
Okay.
She's bought some of the produce off of us, and
she was a big help. She kind of helped us out on the business side. Selling to your neighbors and your coworkers, pretty easy to do. You come in and you say, "I've got extra lettuce. Does anybody want lettuce?" She was kind of helping us learn the structure of working with the business.
But when I say Victory Gardens, stop by and see them you're selling to farmers market and things like this.
Yeah, we did
That's not your stand on South Highway 281 underneath a tree. I've just always wanted to.
That'd be nice.
Okay.
We did the Thursday market here in Great Bend, the Summer Street Stroll, and then we did the Thursday one later in St. John. That was our big ones. And what we've learned is that anything we could produce was absorbed for the most part. We didn't really ever have a problem about worrying about if we had a market to sell to.
How excited are you, Carolyn? I mean, this is. Yeah,
Well,
they help make all this too, you know.
Well, it's
But-
work. This is working the way I would like. When I hear that they said we were thinking about it, but we hadn't quite made that leap yet, and if we were able to put something in place that just helps someone over the edge to make that leap and start a business, begin something with maybe a little less risk. I think what I heard from a lot of the people was that this gave them a little bit of a protected environment to learn and experiment in that first year. And what I'm also hearing is the desire to build it over time. And that's a dream come true for an economic development director.
The thing is, if you want to try, you see a high tunnel, you think, man, I'd want one of those. But you look at the purchase price, you're talking $4,000 to $6,000. That's a pretty healthy investment, you know. To just jump in and say, well, we'll try it, you know, and that took that risk out of it, you know.
It's a lot different than buying an ant farm when I was 8 years
Yeah,
old.
right.
You know? I got there and all the ants were dead. So that was sorry, it's something built up in me over a long time. I didn't want to get personal here. No, but that's awesome. I mean, you've got this, and instead of getting this, and well, I hope stuff works out. I think it's going to. But
Yeah, and it's been really fun. We had tomato plants. That the peak of this high tunnel is 11 foot, and we had tomato plants and cucumber plants that were crunched up into the top of the high tunnel. It was amazing.
We're that Sarah and Lucas Stoelting are with us with Victory Gardens. Also, Carolyn Dunn, the director of Stafford County Economic Development, here on Focus on Stafford County today. So, what's in store now? That, of course, you're one of the few people here that walk right out and get their own salad, Sarah. But I mean, you guys got to be really excited about coming up here in the spring.
Well, the big thing is the produce boxes, I think, for this year, and we're trying to expand on a no debt kind of basis, which really is what the project helps us out with. By doing that, it's going to make our expansion a little bit slower, but then it makes it so that there's no risk to it. We're not going to default on a loan or anything of that nature. So anything that builds, we're free and clear, and that helps our profit.
Let's try to hear something like Dave Ramsey said, 1 to 4 every day here on 1590.
So instead of going big like that, what we're going to do is we're going to expand slowly. Right now, we're going to this summer, if all goes well, if I twist the wife's arm, I'm going to build little high tunnels about 10 by 12, and I think I could do it relatively cheap, and I'm going to use them to experiment. I've convinced her to let me try a pomegranate. And you know that you can't grow those here. We're just on the border, but this ought to make it so it might go. Kind of a pomegranate
Tree, but they don't normally. In this area, you can't grow a lot of. I mean, we're in a 6B is our grow zone, but if a high tunnel actually makes your grow zone bumps you, so you actually would be considered at a zone 7, maybe even an 8. So all of a sudden you can start growing things longer and not have to worry about it freezing because your high tunnel keeps the soil temp up warmer throughout the winter. Right now, in the middle afternoon, it's 60 degrees in the soil temp. Right there, you can already start growing. In fact, in a couple weeks, we'll be planting hopefully some of our cold weather crops in there. So the idea of a pomegranate tree sounds absolutely crazy in Kansas, but we thought, why not give it a shot, try 1 or 2, and see what would happen in the structure if it can hold and last in a cold weather.
When you start looking at gardening, different from the old row and hoe kind of process, and now you're not doing it for your home garden, you're doing it for a business. Everything comes down to how much money. How much money does it take to drive it to market? How much money does this plant produce per plant? And it breaks down to your goal is about $5 a square foot, ideally. Out here, that may be a little high, but that's your ideal. Now, you take a tomato, or a cucumber rather, a cucumber plant can do about 20 to 24 cucumbers, and we were selling about 75 cents a piece, okay? That's a pretty healthy, but a pomegranate, okay, that's a whole new territory. $2 per fruit, and they produce 20 to 40. So if they go, That's where I'm going if I can twist her arm.
We're talking with Sarah and Lucas Stoelting here. Sarah, does he sleep at night? Because I can just see him. Because I can just see his mind going around right now. Because it is exciting. Because you can see, okay, we got this started thanks to this grant, and now that leads to other things, doesn't it, Carolyn? This is all part of your grand scheme. Well,
it does. I can also be one of those people that has trouble sleeping at night because of ideas that will percolate. But I think there might be opportunities to build upon this again because there was a class of, so to speak, of people that went through this together. And, there may be opportunities to develop marketing cooperatives over time, or there's probably a lot of possibilities out there. I think it also matches well with the Healthy Communities Initiative that we've been involved with Kansas Health Foundation, and the idea that we're trying to encourage just more healthy eating and easier access to fresh foods fits well in with that. So, I
don't know, Lucas. You're sitting there. You successfully build a couple of these high tunnels. I can see Victory Gardens and High Tunnels Construction, right? Yeah. I mean, if you can make these things, why?
Well, I've actually got it down to where a 10 by 12 can cost me under $200 to make, and that's not. It's not going to break the bank to play with. You know what I'm saying?
He thought of that on Monday night while he was staying up all night. He had the figures on that. It's just really neat to talk to somebody that's very passionate about what they're doing and the plans that you have in place. Victory Gardens, I guess that's one of those things. Victory Gardens produce that you just get the word out, and wow, that's a Victory Gardens. I got to have that. That'd be a pretty good thing to have, right?
Hopefully.
Are you finding that more people are knowing about what you guys have and what you guys are growing?
We actually had a lot of success down in St. John. There, like I said, everything we produced was absorbed. So we wish we could have got more. There were people coming back and saying, "Oh, you're already out," and so there were people that just in the matter of a few weeks were already repeat customers, if you can say that. What's
your favorite tomato?
My favorite tomato? I know my favorite cucumber is the Socrates.
He'd probably say the Geronimo because it's one of the larger ones.
Basically, it's because the one I picked. So, but it's this whole process has been one learning experience after another. So just like tomatoes, we tried 3 or 4 different type of tomatoes, and we picked one of the best one. Then we were looking through the seed magazine about 3 weeks ago. We saw 2 more different kinds, so now we've got to try the one we liked from last year and the 2 more from this year. So it's a constant, perpetual learning experience.
And I saw a lot of email correspondence between the participants, and we also had a consultant who has been growing in high tunnels for some period of time near Hutchinson, so was familiar with growing conditions in this part of the state and high tunnels, and I think provided some feedback on what kind of varieties had worked and in his experience and so forth too. I don't know if that was one of the things that was helpful about the program, having that access to someone that's kind of done it before, because I don't think that high tunnels have been used as much in this part of the state as you'll see maybe even in the eastern part of the state or other parts of the country. So I've heard you say that it's not the same as growing. No. You think about growing in a garden
the
or
row
something?
And hoe process, because the old way.
I don't like the row and hoe.
There's a lot of work, right? You rototilled it, you planted it, you hoed and hoed and hoed and hoed, and then you watered and watered and watered. This is totally different. You put it down, you put plastic on it and drip irrigation, and you turn it on, and you don't get the waste from that drip irrigation is 70% less water because it's not up in the air. We're getting blown away, and so you don't. It doesn't take near as much to maintain it. I mean, you got to keep an eye on it, but not as much as our regular garden is to weed and weed.
On the other hand, though, what I picked up on from some of the chatter was that in the heat of the summer, you have to pay attention and really manage the ventilation in there, because if you're not, it can cook it.
Right. But if you do the timing right on the shade cloth, it's actually cooler than outside. So it's like doing your garden, but instead of out in the sun, you're underneath a shade tree, basically. And but I have seen tomatoes that have been cooked by the high tunnel since, because they were laid on put on their shade cloth.
So you don't want stewed tomatoes out of a high tunnel. Carolyn Dunn with us, also Sarah and Lucas Stoelting here on Focus on Stafford County. Carolyn, it's always neat when we can see the faces and hear the voices of the people that are having some success with some of the programs that you have going on. We had the update last month with Carol Long was here about the gallery, and anything new on that right now?
I don't. We're hoping that we'll get word before too long on some additional funding, but I haven't heard that actually anything new has developed. So
okay. All right. Well, I put you on the spot there, so we'll move quickly on. You got a meeting coming up.
We do. We are making true progress with our housing project. Tomorrow, we have a pre-bid meeting for contractors. We'll be receiving bids over the next month, and tomorrow's informational meeting will tell contractors what the terms of the project are and how they can bid. We'd invite anyone who's interested in being a part of that construction to come to tomorrow's meeting. It's at 11 a.m. at the Stafford County Annex in St. John. And bids will be due February 25th. We'll hopefully see dirt moving and have houses done by the summer when, I don't know, people coming here for the new school year will be ready to move in.
Well, I just want to, great news, and we appreciate you coming up here every month to be on the program, and also appreciate Sarah and Lucas dropping by today. So you have a tagline yet or something, so we know, when you need vegetables, think of Victory Gardens where
in St. John, off of 281. I don't know.
Oh, okay. So freshest fruit, or I don't know.
We'll have to work on that one, I think.
Well, stay up on Saturday night. So that's the idea you need to try to cultivate right now. But Victory Gardens, people can, so St. John, and then the farmers market, and the on Thursday nights here in Great Bend.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So. What are we going to have? Is tomatoes, cucumbers, and everything coming up here?
Well, right now I've got broccoli growing and cabbage and some leeks, so got that started, and here we'll be starting our tomatoes and peppers any day. So,
Lucas, can you grow bananas in those things?
I looked actually. One thing at a time.
Well, you guys from Iowa, man, you guys get going with it. Any place that people can find out more about what you're doing, or website yet, or anything like that? Just keep us up to date. This is fun.
We're on Facebook. We have what if you search our farm Victory Gardens? Mm-hmm. You'll find it on there.
Just go to Facebook, guys. Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Carolyn. Thanks for bringing up some more really interesting stories today. You're doing well. You just don't want to feel any pressure. Okay, you got to keep doing this. Okay.
Always glad to have the opportunity to be here.
Thanks for coming in. We'll talk to you next month, okay?
Thank you. See
All
you then.
right, that's Carolyn Dunn with us from Stafford County Economic Development. You can find them by going to Stafford County Eco Devo. And that's going to wrap up today's show. News is next here on the Mighty 1590 KVGB.
The voice of the Golden Belt, 1590 KVGB.